Oh, hey, Stoney Creek here. Welcome back. That's right, we're still moving. That's right, we're still moving. I appreciate all your support and continuing to follow me here on this journey. It's certainly taken a lot longer to get moved than what I anticipated. The weather hasn't cooperated at all. In fact, it's supposed to rain again today. Did bring another load from the other house, so one trip at a time, we'll finally get it all done. So last time we spoke, I told you about 2 additions we're going to get to the farm, and we actually ended up getting 3. Now that third one I don't really need, but I'll tell you about that in a little bit. And then last weekend we had the big Cusco auction, and that's the Central U.S. Kiko Goat Association auction, is held right here in Okmulgee, Oklahoma. And that went off with a big success, but I did help set up for that auction, and that took most of the week. And then the auction and the workshops happened that weekend, and then tear down the following day. So that kind of slowed us down on moving a little bit. Now, talking about Cusco, for all of you that came up to me and introduced yourself, said that you watched the videos and everything, I appreciate you. I appreciate you taking the time to come up and say hi. And I appreciate you supporting the channel. And more importantly, I appreciate you supporting the auction, so thank you all for doing that. We actually had 2 does in that auction, and they each had 2 kids, and they did exceptionally well. I was real pleased with those. Of course, we are going to miss them here, but when you raise goats, that's what you do. You raise them to sell. So they're going to be going off to their new homes, or actually they have gone on to their new homes, and I appreciate the buyers that bought those. Well, since you're here, I'm going to take a break from unpacking this real quick. Let me show you around just a little bit what we've got going on. Some of the things that have changed from the last time that I've talked to you about, some ideas that I had on how to set things up. And then talk to you a little bit about future plans. Well, let's go. Well, we're out here in the temporary doe pasture. Let me show you those guys real quick. They all thought that I had food or something, so they come running up. I came out of that door, they all came running up. They're sadly disappointed. But we have this area all fenced in for them. There's Mama Goat. So they're definitely enjoying life out here. New grass, new place. They're digging life. Now once we do get moved, because they're already eating this down with a voracity, this area over behind me, that's going to be the next area that I'm going to be getting fenced in. That way we can release them out there. That's about an 8.5, 9 acre pasture out there. This is just a holding pen. So let me show you the 2 new additions. Thing 1 and thing 2. Trying to film puppies is going to be like herding cats. I'm going to try to hold on to them a little bit. His little female, this comes to us from Split Hoof Ranch right here in Oklahoma. She's an Anatolian Shepherd, Anatolian crossed with Pyrenees. And this little dude came to us all the way from Missouri. I know the man who raised the sire of this dog, and the family had offered pups for sale. And that's clear out just a little bit north of St. Louis. And I decided I needed to add a male to the herd. So we've got him. Now he is a Marama Asian Shepherd cross. One of the cool things about him, hold still buddy, he's got a natural bob tail. But they both come from working families. And I wanted to add pups out here because once we have everything up and operational, of course we'll have our doe pasture, doe and kidding pasture. Then we're going to have a weaning pasture with up to year-old doelings in there that aren't breeding age. And then of course we're going to have our buck pasture. So I wanted to have all 3 of those areas guarded. So we bought these pups, brought these guys home so that we'll have good guards in all of our pastures. Now right now we've got those in the doe pasture because one of the things I like to do is be able to rotate my dogs wherever I want to. I've got my alpha female training them. So right now they're living with the doe herd, the does and the kids. And then probably next spring, once we wean those kids, then they'll follow them over to the weaning pasture. Well, let me show you some of the other stuff that I talked about either last video or a couple of videos ago that I was going to do here in this doe pasture, this doe paddock, that just didn't pan out, but we've got some other ideas. So one of the things that I had talked about was actually building a barn, and until we had a barn built, I was going to have to cut a hole in my existing shop, and I was going to share that with the goats. Now, one of the things, I talked to other breeders who'd actually had concrete floors, and they said that's a terrible idea. And you know, I listened to them. There's a lot of different things going on once you've got concrete. You've got to put lime down, you've got to have a lot of bedding, you've got to worry about foot scald. You've actually got to worry about the urine actually going into the concrete and creating other havoc. So I decided the does aren't going to be sharing my barn. So what we did decide to do, right there we're going to put a 10 by 24 horse loafing barn. It's one of those pre-built jokers that we can just buy and have them delivered. I did the cost analysis on that thing, and it was going to be a lot cheaper just to have them deliver it versus me build it myself. We've still got probably 2 weeks before it's going to be ready for delivery. So until that point, you might recognize our tarp hut from videos last fall. That's just going to give them a little shelter. We've still got the calf hut here. Now I did open up this barn stall. It's of course they've got the covered area here. That's pretty good covered awning. And then they've got, it's like a 12 foot by 12 foot, 12 foot by 14 foot stall that they can go into. But that's still a dirt floor, so it's going to be a lot easier to maintain. Now, one of the other things we did, we're right at that age. Yesterday, we pulled all of our bucklings. They're not pleased at all. Some of them are a little bit less than 90 days old, but they're all within a week of being 90 days. Some's a little bit older, some's a little bit less, but it was time to wean these guys off. Now, all that stuff you saw in the back of my pickup is actually scales and things like that. I'm going to weigh all these guys later on this afternoon, check their average daily gain to see which ones have made the cut for me to register. Now, we've got New Zealands in here and also some purebreds. We've got a couple of commercial percentage bucklings in here. Now, some of these guys are going to be going to the meat market, but some will be going on to new homes. There's a couple of them I wanted to point out to you. Let's go in there. Now, every summer in a few locations in the U.S., they do what's called the buck forage test. And what it is, you take a buck kid, like these guys behind us, and you'll take them to a university, and then they will keep them for 90 days. I believe it's 90 days, 120 days. I've never been involved in that before. But what they'll do is measure their weights once they get there, and then they'll keep them straight on forage for that time to see what their gains are without a lot of added inputs. And they're also going to check to see which ones have parasite resistance, which ones they have to worm, which ones they don't have to worm. And it's kind of a neat little deal. Well, this will be the first year that we've entered anything into the contest, and come the 1st of June, we've got 2 entries into it's a brand new contest started this year at Langston University right here in Oklahoma. So I'm going to show you my 2 entries. Now, I should say my 2 entries depending upon what the weights are this afternoon. But early weights for my, of course, birth weights and 30 and 60 day weights, they're the big contenders. So we're going to see what their 90 day weights are. But now I'll point those out to you. This little buckling right here is a New Zealand buckling. I'm surprised he's coming up to the camera. He's normally not this friendly. He's sired by DDH Gorgeous George, comes to us from Dennis Higgins of Dindar Farms. And George's sire, Chris Manna, has had a lot of top 10 winners. And the way this guy's going, I think he's also going to be a big contender. Now let me show you the other one. This guy right here is also a New Zealand. And he's sired. And his dam is also out of Chris Manna. So we're expecting big things out of him. Now, of course, after the contest, they're going to be for sale. And any other buck that we see in here, they'll also be for sale. It'll just depend upon their birth weights, what we're going to do as far as selling them as registered or selling them as commercial. But if you're interested in buckling, be sure to contact me. My son wanted me to point out this little guy. He has named him Void. This is a little purebred buckling. Now, although he's not going to be in a contest, he's certainly for sale if anyone's interested in a good purebred there. And then there's one more buckling I want to point out. I don't know if you've noticed yet or not, but I'm wearing my Keeping It Dutch t-shirt. There's a reason for that. This little chunk right here, he's going to Dutch and Dutch's family. Dutch and I chatted on the phone, I don't know, probably 90 days ago or so, when he first started having lambs. And I asked him if he wanted to trade a buck kid for a lamb. My wife and my son likes lamb a lot. That's actually one meat that I don't care for, but they like it and we had the opportunity. Dutch agreed to it. So this little dude's going to Dutch here in a little bit. The little fatty won't even get up. I believe Dutch and his family is going to be pretty pleased with him. Now, if y'all get a chance, go over and tell Dutch that he needs to do goats and get out of those sheep. Well, let's go over into the other pasture. I'll show you what else we've got. So I don't have my six-wheeler out here yet. It's still over at the other farm. Everything is a walk here, but you know what? I'm not complaining. We're still pretty stoked about moving out here. It's really a dream come true that we didn't think was ever going to happen. So we're out here in the buck pasture. Their shelter is way down there. Let me see if I can walk up on these guys. You talk about some critters enjoying life. Back at our other place, in the wintertime, their paddock really become a big old mud pit. So out here in the grass, they are loving life. This is Gorgeous George. I talked to you about him just a minute ago. This buck right behind him that's trying to walk off from me. That's Whiskey's Blue Steel. Now we only put him with 5 does this year, but every one of them settled. And he makes some good looking babies. There's our pasture guardians out here. Now this buck, he's an Apache Loverboy's son. That's the sire to that black buck that I showed you that belongs to my son, that we call Shadow's Void. My guardians are really loving it out here as well. They're an Anatolian sister team. Hello, George. I guess he wants to make sure I'm getting his good side. Now this little fella, he's the third thing that we got. He's a boss's sports son. He comes from Joe Benson out in Colorado. He's still a young little dude, but we're gonna see how he grows out. And of course, we still have the mule. Old Frodo's definitely loving life out here. And this is still just gonna be the temporary holding pen for the bucks. This is almost an acre out here, but this is eventually gonna become our weaning pen. Once I get that area fenced in for the does, that 8.5, 9 acres, then the very next thing, we'll be working on the bucks' forever home pen. And their forever home is gonna be right beyond that fence line, up to our perimeter fence. And that's gonna be almost 5 acres for them out there. In this paddock, we're gonna have a cross fence here, and then we'll be able to rotational graze. That's our tree line down there, up over the hill. So once everything's done for the bucks, they'll actually have about 11 acres altogether to range on. And that's the size of our entire farm that we're moving from. It was only 11 acres. So I think they're gonna be pretty stoked. Well, as much as I wish that it would, truck's not gonna unload itself. I probably need to get back to it. I definitely appreciate your continued support and your patience with me while we're getting through this Right now we don't have internet over here at the new place, so if you're watching this, I drove back to our old place, I did all the editing, and I uploaded it from there. Hopefully we're going to get some internet here in the soon time, and then it'll make things a lot easier. We're hoping we're going to have the internet speed. Who knows, maybe I'll even do a live stream or two. Well, as always, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next video.